really a bigger issue. I may have 2 megabit download and I may complain about that, but my upload is 128 kilobits. And as a digital media, someone who consumes digital media but also creates digital media, it takes a long time to upload anything. There's a company up in Coleraine that I've done some work for, and they produce high definition movies. They have a lease on a building that they have get out for the next 2 years, so they can't move to a science park. And their upload means that whenever they start uploading a high-definition video that they filmed that day, the last one that they were uploading yesterday hasn't finished uploading. So their upload time is approximately 25 hours to upload a video.
Is that an exception or the rule in business? Are people finding that slow upload speeds, as a rule, are stagnating the businesses? Or would that be...
I'm concerned with digital media companies. So I see it whenever I upload images to a website, and they take a long time. And any time where I'm sitting waiting, if I'm sitting waiting, my computer's sitting waiting 100 times or 1,000 times faster than me. So, when you're talking about dealing with clock cycles, or you're talking about time to market, when your time to market is essentially ruined by the fact that it takes 25 hours to upload today's video, you can get my product in 2 days' time because it takes that amount of time for me to upload it. Not acceptable.
Do you think then there's potential business for someone who owns an streaming hotspot to take files from other people that will write further?
Yes.
Yes. See, we're a nation of providers. We're not consumers. We're only 1.7 million people. So we're delivering to the rest of the world rather than consuming in terms of certainly our industry. And so, uploads are vitally important. And when we get our 10% corporation tax that we're arguing for from the Treasury in the near future, hopefully in Northern Ireland, we're really going to need to become a distribution region. Frankly, at the moment, in my view, Kelvin matters more to companies that are in the south, in Cavan or in Donegal. Because, Microsoft, Google do all the European distribution from the south, 12.5% corporation tax. But anyway, that's another point. Okay, any other points before we move on to the next? In fact, I think the next, given we've talked about broadband, fixed bandwidth, fixed line bandwidth, I think one of the issues is this last question. The mobile phone is a true personal device whose use is expanding rapidly. Where is it moving? And what do we need to do in providing sufficient coverage and bandwidth capability for particularly mobile? Rob, you want to talk?
No, I'd rather pass that one on.
Right. Dermot.
Yeah, sure. One of the facts is that come 2013, the smartphone will be the predominant device by which we access the internet and World Wide Web, overtaking traditional desktop and laptop. So that in itself is a figure which A, startles me, but B, see a lot of opportunity in taking that. So there's an opportunity, a significant opportunity there. I think the other thing is that we continue to be more demanding, and we continue to be more arguably selfish in that I want it now, I want it at the time of my choosing, by the mechanism of my choosing, I want to be able to do more things, and that is lending itself much more to the use of, for example, the mobile phone. And then if you take a look at, I'll give a couple of examples, what they're called contextual services. So there's nearly an element of Big Brother in it. Nonetheless, if you think of the power of me driving home tonight, my phone being able to tell me that, it's my wife's birthday, I'm due to take her for dinner at 6:30. There's no way I have time to get to my local flower shop. By the way, there's a flower shop next to me. I don't buy my flowers with birthdays. But anyway, there's a flower shop which is 2 minutes around the corner, and you could go there and they happen to have what her personal preference is. So the power of that, which is linked to location-based services, which is linked to the here and now, and there's an element of me wanting to have those types of services offered, people wanting to be proactive and present those types of services. My personal belief is that will become massive, but I do believe there are very significant opportunities for the companies that can accept that as being a fact and being a direction and that figure of 50% greater, the majority of web access being on the smartphone rather than traditional devices, in itself should be a wake-up call to a lot of us.
Jason, what do you think from a digital circle perspective?
From a digital circle perspective, what I'd like to see in the next 2 or 3 years is, first of all, Northern Ireland to be fully 3G. That would be a nice start.
£200 a month for about 5 megs for 2 ADSL connections, so I've got a total, I guess, of nearly 40 megs. It's costing me about £50 a month. So it could be, I'm probably being selfish. I live and work in an urban area. I don't see the cost or availability of bandwidth as a big issue. I do see latency as a big issue, and we're probably going to talk about cloud services at some point in this session. And I think sometimes people don't understand kind of how the connections work, and that some of the issues that they're going to see in terms of performance are not related to bandwidth, they're actually related to the latency and the protocols underneath. Where I would accept that there is an issue in rural areas, there is no real economic incentive for the carriers to provide plentiful cheap bandwidth into remote areas. So for sure that's going to be a barrier to businesses wanting to establish themselves there if they are digital in terms of some of their assets. And it's also a barrier, I guess, to home working, which is taking off to a huge degree globally, but that does require people to work effectively from home. And I know for many people that's just not an option because they simply haven't the bandwidth to do that. We could be selfish and say they should move somewhere where there is bandwidth, or else live with the consequence of their decisions. But that, I think, is the one barrier that does exist. The rest, I think, is a bit of a distraction from the other things that are holding us back.
Matt, you've been particularly vocal about Kelvin and its true value, if any.
All I've done is ask questions for what the value is. I know what the cost was, but I'm not sure what the value is. And I would kind of agree that for the most part, the bandwidth we have is adequate. I live inside Belfast, and I'm getting I'm getting under 2 megabits, which is fine for surfing, it's fine for downloading the odd app off the app store, it's fine for checking my bank, but it means that online movies, for example, are a nightmare. You have to start downloading them 3 hours before you intend to watch it, and it also clogs the pipe. So from a selfish reason, I think that we do absolutely need more bandwidth. But some people, who here has BT Infinity or Virgin Media at above 10 megabits?
We've got the option of it, Matt, but I haven't turned around because it's ridiculously expensive and there's a usage cap even on the unlimited, so it kind of negates itself.
So, out of this group, which admittedly is not necessarily a representative sample, but out of 20 people, 2 people got it. That speaks to me that we spent an absolute fortune, 48 million or something was spent on increasing bandwidth, and it's managed to deal with 10% of people. I think we need more, and I think we need more laws to make sure that rural areas do get it regularly.
Any comments from the audience? Yes.
I just want to follow up on that very same point, Matt. You talk about the usage of broadband for downloading video and that sort of thing, and all of the technologies all through the years have all been driven by the killer app, whatever the killer app is. I suspect that the next killer app for broadband is video streaming onto the big widescreen in your living room. And I've just gone through a migration process from Orange to, and it was BE's local loop rather than the Infinity, but that was a cost thing. But to experience online television, which is going to explode next year with YouView and all of that sort of stuff, you really, really need at least 10 to give you a sensible, steady 6, 7, or it will not work. So if the percentage of Northern Ireland with that sort of download capability at all is in the 10-20%, we're really going to be left behind with that, I think, unless something dramatic happens.
I was asked to contribute to a survey where they were saying, with Kelvin, etc., what sort of bandwidth should we be aiming for? Should we be selecting for 10 megabit? Is that good? And I said, well, Mountain View and the whole of South Korea have access to 1 gigabit. If they've got access to that now, why are we aiming for 2015 to have 10? So.
But do we need it? Any other comments from you?
I do.
Rory.
Speaking as a resident of the greater metropolitan area, we have an employing service, and we set up an IP/IT law firm there. It was very much on how close an office could we get to the telephone exchange. really is like that. So we do a lot of work for clients involving games, involving movies, and we're paying extremely good money.
Any other comments? Anybody else want to add there? Anywhere?
I would like to add maybe add to what some of the people have said, but you know, when I'm out and about and talking to companies, and particularly younger companies and startup companies, the challenge is when asked, what do you face and what's keeping you back, or what would enable success, the word bandwidth never comes into the conversation. So that's not to take away from what's been said, and particularly the personal element, where could I be more effective working from home or remote communities, etc. But I don't hear the word bandwidth being mentioned very often. I mean, it's back to, I still think there's some fundamental basics to which this may be somewhat of a red herring, like, where do I get my sales, where do I get my first sale, where do I get my export, how do I go about developing partnerships. I think the bandwidth conversation, it does very much come into, what is the offering I have, where is the market going, what do I need to do to be able to address that market, be it now, in a year's time, 2 years' time. But for me personally, and from the companies that I speak to, it's certainly not, I don't hear it as being top of the agenda.
Yeah, I think I would add to that. I think maybe there's a differentiation between the demands of the personal market and the demands of the business market. I mean, I base my business in the Northern Ireland Science Park, which boasts fibre cables of 5 gigabits per second. The sky's the limit effectively in terms of what we can get. Now that said, one of the notes I would make is that for a 2 meg link through that, it's something in the region of £350 a month, which seems quite extortionate. And I know because I pay a number of those tariffs. So I guess, to my knowledge, where a lot of the businesses are located in those hubs in terms of science parks and Weaver's Business Park, etc., etc. I don't believe that there is any real constraint there in terms of the bandwidth that's available.
The upload is really a bigger issue. I may have 2 megabit download and I may complain.